Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Marvin's Room. Thank you guys, as always, for continuing to tune in. And to the new subscribers, welcome to the channel. Getting ready to get into a great video today that I came across years ago from the great Gregg Braden. For those that don't know who Gregg Braden is a scientist, and in my opinion, he's one of those pioneers who did a great job in bridging the gap between science and spirituality, because as we know, science and spirituality have always been at the opposite end of the spectrum. Scientists always later on in life end up proving spirituality real. They end up proving people in religion real to what these people in religion or spirituality have known for hundreds of thousands of years. It takes scientists a while to get caught up to that, because science is all about knowing. Science is all about making things make sense. If it doesn't make sense, if science can't prove it, then it must not be real. It must not be true. This is not how spiritual people act. This is not how people in religion are supposed to act, etc., etc. So I just want to take time to shout out to Gregg Braden, because he's done a great job at bridging the gap between science and spirituality and helping science understand, hey, just because we don't have the answers doesn't mean these people over here saying X, Y, and Z, it doesn't mean that they're wrong just because us as scientists cannot explain it. Let's try to look at what they're saying and try to understand why these things are happening. And what Gregg Braden is getting ready to get into in today's video that we're going to watch is he's getting ready to get into the book, The Lost Gospel of Thomas, which was a book that was taken out of the Bible. And you're going to hear him so eloquently explain these teachings and what happened back in those time periods of around when Jesus was around into 100, 200, 300 years after Jesus, when they might have been discovered. So guys, get ready to buckle up and listen to this great excerpt from Gregg Braden talking about the Gospel of Thomas and how to really pray, how to really manifest your dreams. And you'll see, for all you Neville lovers out there, these teachings were obviously years before Neville Goddard came into the picture and other LOA teachers came into the pictures. But you'll see that these teachings are in line with what Neville talks about and with what many other LOA metaphysical teachers discuss as well.
Putting it up onto the World Wide Web. So the question, what is in these texts that's so valuable? What is in these old texts that makes them so powerful? Well, some of the things that are in these texts are icons, pictures of Jesus. This icon was created within 300 years of the death of Jesus from the descriptions of people who lived with him and saw him. This may be one of the closest representations to Jesus that we actually have today. There are old, beautiful, illuminated manuscripts like this. Beautiful books, Coptic Christian texts. Early Christian Bibles, only 100 or 200, 300 years after the time of Jesus. And this is why I brought you to this monastery. I want to share with you one of these texts. One of the texts that was edited from our Christian Bible is in this monastery. And we saw it, and you'll see a picture of it here. How many have heard of the Lost Gospel of Thomas? The Lost Gospel of Thomas. Some of you have heard of that text. Very, very powerful text. The Lost Gospel of Thomas is powerful because it is believed to be the actual words of Jesus as he was teaching those around him how to use the power of human emotion in his life. Now, I'm going to share two of these images with you. We said earlier, to unleash the force of the divine matrix in our lives, first, we have to understand how it works. And the science tells us how it works. Secondly, we must speak the language that the divine matrix recognizes, and science cannot tell us that. That comes from our past, from our culture, from our history, from those who have learned and used this language for thousands of years. So this is what we're doing right now. We're learning what did Jesus and what did the great masters say about this language. Because it's the same whether you're talking Buddhist or Hindu or Christian, pre-Christian traditions.
This is something that I wanted to address real quick. You see how he said it's the same whether you're talking about Christian, Hebrew, Judaism, whatever, Buddha, it doesn't matter. This is something I religiously said in all of my videos. These teachings are real and they are going out to everyone, literally everyone. Doesn't matter what your faith is, what you believe in. As he said, as long as you know how to speak to the language of the divine matrix, that language is what it's going to respond to.
They're all telling us that there is a field of energy and that we have the language to use that field. This is an actual page out of the Gospel of Thomas. So we know that this ancient gospel actually existed. And you can see some of the letters. These are Greek letters. You can actually read some of, if you know Greek, you can see some of the Greek letters right here.
I wish I could read Greek.
In the Gospel of Thomas, two very important keys. This was written right around 300 years after the time of Jesus. In this gospel, okay, so here's what we're doing. We've been in the Buddhist monasteries in Tibet, and they're telling us that that feeling is the prayer, one. Two, that we must feel as if our prayers have already been answered. Okay, and now we're in an Egyptian monastery with the texts that used to be our tradition before they were edited, and we're going to look at the instructions that tell us how to do that. Okay if we do that? Is that good? Okay. Gospel of Thomas. If you have a copy of the Gospel of Thomas, this is verse 106, translated from the Nag Hammadi Library. And if you do not have a copy, it's in our books, and you can go to any library and pick this up. Verse 106. Look at what the Lost Gospel of Thomas says. It says, when you make the two, thought and emotion, one. So the Gospel of Thomas is talking about thought and emotion. It's saying when you make your thought and your emotion one, look at what happens. You will say to the mountain, mountain, move away, and the mountain will move away. It's saying that when you can marry your thought and your emotion into one single potent force, that is when you have the power to speak to the world.
I want to just say something real quick. How he mentions thought, marry, thought and emotion, and then you say to the mountain, move, and the mountain must move. This goes back to what essentially Emile Quay was saying, and imagination overpowering your will. And this is essentially why, like I was saying in some of my recent videos, why a lot of people, they cannot manifest, because their imagination is out of sync with whatever it is they want. They're not marrying, just as Gregg Braden said, they're not marrying their thought and emotion. One is off. You need that other piece in order to make it happen.
The tumor that disappeared in the woman this morning, that is an example. When those practitioners had the thought of the woman being healed.
So real quick, you're going to hear him mention in this video about a woman healed of a tumor. And there's another video out there of this situation happening on YouTube. It's not in this video that we're watching right now, but in the video, there's a woman who's literally lying on a bed or a table, I forget. And there's these 3 Asian practitioners around her, and she has a tumor, and everything is on, I don't know what you call it, everything is on, it's basically, it's all on camera. It's all on, they hooked her up to, I don't know if it's ultrasound or something. They hooked it up so you could see her, and you could see the tumor, and you could see everything happening in real time. It's so crazy. So they hooked her up, and the 3 practitioners, they start chanting towards the woman laying on the table, going like this, and they're saying, I forget, he says it later in the video, they're saying, they're chanting like, wasa, wasa, wasa. They're doing it on camera, and they're showing you in real time them healing by chanting, by the energy. And Gregg Braden is getting ready to go, and he's going to go into it later in the video on what they were doing at that exact moment. But I wanted to give you guys a backstory so that you know what he's talking about.
Healed, and the feeling and the emotions were all one. The mountain moved, the tumor disappeared. Okay, so this is one place. Now, secondly, when you make the two one, what are they talking about? What are the two? Let's go back to our image. the two, thought and emotion, when the two become one in our hearts, we create the feelings in our bodies. When thought and emotion become one, and you'll see how to do that in just a minute.
And this is why I always say that heart is more important than the head. The head is important because the head gives you the images. The imagination is what gives you the images, but the head can't necessarily create the feeling, and that's what the heart's for. So when you close your eyes, or when the mind sees those images, the heart can communicate how those images are making you feel.
Let's go back to the Gospel of Thomas, another verse. Now this is verse 48. It says almost the same thing. This was so important that it was recorded at least 3 different times in the same Gospel. Look at what this says. If the two make peace with each other in this one house. When Jesus is talking about the house or the temple, what is he talking about? What is he talking about? Precisely you. You are the house. You are the temple. If the two make peace with each other in this house, if thought and emotion become one, if they make peace with each other in this house, look what happens. They will say to the mountain, move away, and it will move away. He's telling us again, in a completely different verse, how powerful it is to marry thought and emotion. But they still haven't told us how. How do you do this? That's the next piece. In the early Christian Bible, your Bible today, there is a passage. How many have heard, ask and ye shall receive? Have you heard that before? Ask and ye shall receive. Have you heard that? I know people that ask and ask and ask and nothing happens. Because the asking is not done with the voice. The asking is not done, please, please, bring this to my world. That's not asking. To ask, we must speak to the field, to the divine matrix, in the language that the field recognizes. And a language that's meaningful. The field doesn't recognize our voice, it recognizes the power of our heart. Remember this morning, our heart, we have a feeling, creates electrical waves, magnetic waves. That's the language the field recognizes. So when you create the feeling in your heart as if your prayer is already answered, that creates the electrical and the magnetic waves that bring that answer to you. And you're going to see this in just a moment. Ask and ye shall receive. While we still have this passage in our text, in the Bible that you have today, the King James Version, John 16, 23, 24, what you have is the condensed version. You have the edited version. The edited version looks like this. This is the edited version. Whatsoever ye ask the Father in my name, he will give it to you. Hitherto have ye asked nothing in my name. Okay? Ask and ye shall receive, that your joy may be full. Okay, this is the edited version. This is so amazing to me because they took out the 2 sentences that tell us how to ask. In the 4th century, when the edits happened, they took those 2 sentences out. Would you like to see those 2 original sentences? Okay, we'll go back into the original Aramaic and we'll look at a new translation. This is the original Aramaic. It begins, it looks very similar. So this is the retranslated version with the missing pieces. All things that you ask straightly, directly from inside my name, you will be given. It says, so far you've not done this, because if we ask with our voice, we have not done this. Now here's the piece that was edited. Here is what was lost. Look at these two very powerful sentences.
You hear what he said? If you ask with your voice, you have not done this. Powerful. Most people are asking with their voices. That's why they have not done it. That's why I always religiously tell people to stop affirming 24/7 because, and I'm not saying it doesn't work, but for most people, affirming 100,000 times a day or whatever the number is, 10,000 times a day, it's not going to work for most people. And Gregg Braden literally just said it. You're asking with your voice. You don't ask the divine matrix. You don't ask the field, the quantum field, with your voice for things. You ask with your feelings. There is always a war going on, and they're not at peace. And he said that earlier in the video. When the two make peace, the reason a lot of times affirmations don't work, one, like he just said, you're supposed to respond to the field of the matrix, and the way you do that is with feeling. Also, two, second part is your thoughts aren't at peace. Up here is not at peace with right here. Right here, coming out of here, is not at peace with right here. So you cannot marry the two. So when you say to the mountain move, the mountain is not going to move because there's no marriage between the two, as he said earlier.
Ask without hidden motive and be surrounded by your answer. Be enveloped by what you desire, that your gladness be full.
I think that's an amazing point that he said, ask without hidden motives. I think this is something that I mentioned in some of my past videos. I think a lot of times, so many people, they ask for things, but they don't realize what are your motives behind asking for that. So many of us ask for things with judgment. We ask for things with hidden motives. And then we wonder why we don't get it, or we wonder why then when we do get it, something bad falls apart. And it's because it's not pure. Whatever you're asking for is not pure. You have a hidden motive. And I think just now what he said, listen to that, lets you know this is a reminder. Don't ask for things with hidden motives, because I tell people all the time, you cannot trick the universe. You cannot lie to the field. You cannot lie to the matrix. It knows you better than you know you, because you don't have control over your mind. It made all of us. We all come from the same source. So stop thinking that you can outsmart the matrix. Stop thinking you can outsmart the universe. It's not gonna happen. And the only way to get what you want a lot of times is to be real, is to be honest, to ask without hidden motives, hidden intentions, to ask without harming other people, without wanting to harm yourself, or whatever the case may be.
What it's saying. It's not saying to speak a word, it's saying to be surrounded, to feel as if. If you are surrounded, you are feeling as if your answer has already happened. Be enveloped. If you want the perfect relationship in your life, if you want the healing in the body of your loved ones, feel the feeling of what it is like as if that has already happened. Be enveloped by what you desire, because that is when your thought and your emotion become one. You think the thought of the healing in your loved ones, and you feel the love of that thought. They become one, and that is the language that this field recognizes. Does that make sense? Are you okay with that? You're going to see an example of this, another example here in just a moment. Ask without hidden motive. What does that mean? Hidden motive. Ask without judgment. This is precisely what the Buddhists are telling us. Ask without the judgment of the right or the wrong or the good or the bad. Ask without the ego. Ask from the heart.
That's something that I always say to you guys as well. Anybody that's been following me for a long time. Like he said, ask without the ego. A lot of you don't realize you're manifesting from your ego. And a lot of times, and he literally just said it, if you guys don't listen to me, listen to somebody like Gregg Braden. Listen to somebody else say it. Listen to somebody that has 100,000 more subscribers, 200,000 more subscribers, 1 million more subscribers. Do not ask for things from the ego, because most times it won't end well. Because what your ego wants versus what your soul, what your heart knows it wants, a lot of times it's two different things.
Is this meaningful to you? Is this helpful at all? Let me give you an example then. Because to be, if it says be surrounded, that means to feel as if. To feel as if. Now, if that sounds too religious, because it's from the Bible, we spoke this morning about Neville. The philosopher Neville, early in the 20th century. his book, The Power of Awareness. Look at what he says. It's the same thing. Neville says, you must make your future dream a present fact now by assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled to come from the place that it's already happened. Now, this is what those practitioners did with that cancerous tumor. I want to just elaborate on this a little bit. When those practitioners healed the woman with her tumor this morning, they did not judge the cancer as wrong or bad or right or good. There was no judgment. They accept that tumor as a possibility, one of many possibilities, because in the quantum world, all things are possible. So they didn't say, bad cancer, you must go away.
Think about what he just said. They didn't judge the cancer. How many of us, when we have something or we think about it, we judge it right away? Think about a lot of you guys that are in third-party situations when it comes to your specific person. Think about how you're judging your specific person and you're also judging them for being with that specific person. You're coming from judgment all the way around, and when you're asking to get rid of your specific person, you're asking with hidden motives, with a hidden agenda, which is what he just said earlier to not do. So you guys see how this is all getting pieced together? And this is so beautifully said. If they're not judging a cancerous tumor in a woman, you guys should not be judging your specific person. You guys should not be judging your specific person if they are with the third party, etc., etc. Understand and accept it as an option. And now let's listen to Gregg. Now he talks about how they got rid of the tumor.
Operate on you, or we're going to use radiation on you. They didn't do that. They accepted the cancer as it was, without hidden motive, without judgment. And they said, now we're going to choose a new reality by feeling, assuming the feeling as if the woman is already healed. So what they did was they felt the feeling as if the woman was fully healed, fully enabled, fully capacitated, already happened. And the chant that they were using, wasa, wasa, loosely translates into the words, already done. Already done. And then when they got excited, they said, mate, 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 means now, 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 not a year from now, not a month from now, not 5 minutes from now, now, in the quantum world, now. And her body responded. It must. Physical reality must respond to the language that it understands. So in the Buddhist traditions, they are telling us the quality of the feeling. And in the Judeo-Christian traditions, they are giving us the instructions to be surrounded, to be enveloped, how to create that feeling. And when you put those all together, it's something that happens in our hearts, not in our minds. Feeling as if the prayer is already answered with no judgment and no ego, and feeling from the result. Feeling from the result as if it's already happened. Are there any martial artists here in the room? Karate experts? I studied martial arts when I was in my 20s and 30s. A little bit in my 40s and 50s. Have you seen martial artists when they demonstrate their focus by breaking a concrete block? Have you seen that? You've all seen that before, right? Okay, here's the secret. Here is the secret to breaking that block. When the martial artist is focused on that block, the very last thing that they are thinking is about their hand hitting the block. Because if they think about that, they know it will hurt. So they focus on what happens after their hand has passed through the block, as if it has already happened. They focus on a place below the block and feel the feeling as if their hand is already in that place. That is a metaphor. That is an equivalent for what we're doing with the power of emotion, feeling as if the experience has already happened.